So my plan for the day had been to take that elevator up to that very observation deck that I just mentioned. But by the time I got there, it was already like maybe 1:30 in the afternoon or something, and I was kind of thinking at that point that it might be maybe kind of risky going up there, and I might risk not being back in time, being down in time to get to the late show with a good amount of time. So I had to be there at 5:30, and I figured that maybe, you have to stand in line for an hour or something before I get up, and then, a long elevator ride, and then you're up there, and you spend, I don't know, you're up there, it's an exciting place to be, you probably don't want to leave too quickly, so, I figured maybe be up there for 20 minutes, half an hour, something like that, and then coming back down, I figured it might be cutting my time really closely, because who knows what might happen during the day. Maybe it would take a really long time to get down or something, and I really didn't want to risk not being in that standby line at the late show. So I decided that I'd save my trip up to the top of the Empire State Building for another day, after I've seen more of the city too. I always planned on keeping that part of my trip until the end of the trip, because at that point, by the end of the trip, I've already traveled all over the place and seen so many different areas of the town that by when I went up to the top of the Empire State Building, I'd be able to look around and say, oh, I've been there, oh, I know what that building is, oh, that's what that looks like from above. You can appreciate it more than when you just go up and you go, oh, so many buildings. Wow, I don't know what any of these buildings are. Oh, I don't know. Am I looking north? Am I looking south? After you've actually lived in the city for a little while and traveled around it, I think you can appreciate seeing it from that angle so much more. So I decided to save that until the end, and I'm going to do that tomorrow. Hopefully, if not tomorrow, then the next day. So the next building that I went to visit was Grand Central Station, which is a big train station that was built during the same time period as Penn Station was built. The difference is that Penn Station, both stations were built, as magnificent, huge stations that were there to welcome people to the city and, be a really magnificent sort of a building. But the difference is that Penn Station, they bulldozed the top of it and just made it flat and then built a big stadium on top of it, where Grand Central Station is still just like it was when it was first built. It still has the high ceilings and everything. And I went inside and I was just totally blown away. Like a really, really, really nice building. Thinking about it from like an engineering standpoint, it's a whole lot of wasted space. You've got all this huge, high, very high ceiling, like 4 or 5 stories high to the roof, just full of air that you have to heat in the winter, and it's totally unusable. It's of course a waste, but it's seeing it already there is really impressive. So I went inside and I just looked around for, I probably spent 10 minutes just looking around. Just amazing architecture and such a huge, magnificent building. But after seeing that, I could kind of understand and appreciate why Penn Station did get bulldozed down. Just because, after they put the stadium on top of it, it still acts as the same transportation hub as it always was. It's no less effective in doing the job that it's intended to do, but it's just not as nice a place to be when you're spending time in the train station. Well, I can understand why they wouldn't build another station like that in New York, but I can't understand why they've already got this huge, amazing, brilliant building that's already there. Why you would go to the trouble of getting rid of it, because there's lots of other places you could probably put that stadium. So that station is right near where the Chrysler Building is, which I've always thought was probably my favorite building in New York, and maybe my favorite building in the whole world. Just it looks so nice at the very top. Just those big round, the round top and the point at the top and the round little windows that come around. I've always thought it's a really, really nice looking building. And the top is made of aluminum or something. It's metal, shiny paneling at the top. It's just, I think, a really, really nice looking building. So I obviously wanted to go and see that building from the bottom, and while it's not as impressive from the bottom as it is when you see it, shot from above, but it's really cool to stand beside and touch the building, the Chrysler Building. And I did get I tried to take a few pictures of myself standing below that building. But it's always kind of really hard to take a picture of yourself and a building because you're so small and the building's so high. But I think I got a pretty good picture of myself in my favorite building. So I guess the significance of the Chrysler Building is that it was the tallest in the world for about a year, and it was being built right around the same time as 40 Wall Street was being built. And both buildings were going up at the same time, and both of them obviously wanted to be the tallest in the world, and they were both kind of keeping their plans secret so that all the time they were like adding more to the building, trying to get a little bit more height out of it. And they didn't want the other building to know what they were doing, or then they try to top off what they were doing. But the amazing thing about the Chrysler Building when it was being built, how at the top of the Chrysler Building there's this big needle that sticks up. While they were constructing the building, they had that needle. They were constructing that needle inside the middle of the tower, and it was you couldn't see it from the outside. But after the 40 Wall Street had already finished its top and everything, and they celebrated being the tallest in the world, the Chrysler Building had this little needle in the middle of it that they elevated right to the top of the building, and they bolted in place, and then they were the world's tallest building without anyone knowing that it was coming. And that's really sneaky, but really impressive, and again, a really nice looking building. So the next buildings that I looked at were the UN buildings, the United Nations, which are right on the East River. And that's, again, a pretty neat building, at least the tall tower that they have. It's just this really flat, tall building. It's really long and narrow. And then there's the big assembly building where, it has a big sloping roof that's where the big meetings take place of the members of the UN. The big tall building actually looked like it was kind of under construction. It had scaffolding on parts of it. And the top of it, they had some scaffolding too, and it actually looked like they were working on building the building so that it would be a little bit taller, but I'm not sure if they actually were. Maybe they were just restoring the roof of it or something. But also outside the UN building, they had all the flags from all the different nations that are part of the UN, so I went along and looked at all of them, and I found the Canada flag. So at that point, I had seen all of the buildings that I wanted to see on the east side of Midtown, and so I went and I did one of the items from yesterday that I didn't get a chance to do properly, which was the Queensboro Bridge. As I said yesterday, when I was, my plan was to cross the bridge while listening to the 59th Street Bridge, which is, the Queensboro Bridge is the 59th Street Bridge, and it was written about that bridge by Simon and Garfunkel. And the song is better known by its bracketed title, which is Feelin' Groovy. And so yesterday when I crossed the bridge, I didn't have my headphones with me, so I couldn't do it. And the rain was coming down too. And the song's all about, slow down. You move too fast. You got to make the morning last. It's all about, just sort of walking and not being in a hurry to do anything. And when it was pouring rain down on me and everything, I just wasn't feeling the message of the song. So today what I did was I locked my bike up right near the Manhattan side of the bridge, actually right where the Roosevelt tram that I showed yesterday, the station for that in Manhattan is. I locked my bike there, and then I walked across, and I walked pretty much all the way across. I walked all the way until I was actually in Queens, and then I turned around and came back. And I had my headphones with me today and my MP3 player, and I listened the whole way across. I listened to the 59th Street Bridge, and it was just a great experience. I took lots of pictures along the way, and lots of video film. And it was really fun. I actually had two different versions of the song on my MP3 player, a live version and the original studio version. I actually prefer the live version that I have. I think it sounds a little bit better. So I listened to one version when I was walking in one direction, and I listened to the other version when I was walking in the other direction. And the only other song I listened to while I was going across was the theme song to the TV show of The King of Queens. Which is a little 30-second clip of the song, but I happened to have that on my MP3 player, so listen to that. And the connection with that song to the bridge is it mentions the Queensboro Bridge too. It says, "I'm sitting here in traffic on the Queensboro Bridge tonight," and that show's obviously about people that live in Queens. That's actually another one of my favorite shows, and I actually wanted to go and see the house that they use for the exteriors of the King of Queens show. But when I looked it up, it turned out that house is actually not in Queens at all. It's actually in New Jersey, so I definitely didn't want to go and see it if it was in New Jersey. But anyways, I walked pretty much all the way out to the other side, and I crossed Roosevelt Island, and I didn't go all the way like down to the street on the Queens side, but I did walk until when I looked down, I was over top of Queens, and then I came back, and then I unlocked my bike, and by this point it was like 4:10 in the afternoon, and the late show, they told me to be there at 5, so I was thinking, well, what should I do now? And I also realized that